Good evenings, good evenings. Kyk vir dit stories goeienaand Kaapse vlakte se mense. Hoop dit gaan goed saam met julle. Sorry ek is 'n bietjie laat. We were supposed to start at 7:05, but you know what Eskom, we blame it on Eskom. It's Eskom that kept us or that delayed our live broadcast. Tonight in the studio, I've got two people with me. Good evenings, Paul. Hope you're well. Hope you're good. I've got Taswiil as well as Kia. And we want to speak about mental health. That's something we don't speak about. Hy's een ding wat ons nou nie van praat op die Kaapse vlakte nie. Because we are, afraid to speak about it. Ons is skaam om oor te praat. And for that reason, we want to talk about mental health. It's important for us to talk about mental health. I mean, when I was young, I used to go to the gym and I used to do weights and I used to work my arms and I used to work my shoulders, my chest so I can look good. And the same we need to do with our mental health. We need to, work with the things that is bothering us. We need to speak about it. And I've got the professionals here. I'm not a professional, but I'm going to also listen to them. And guys, please post questions. If you have questions, please do post questions. Good evening, Sean. Hope you're well. Lottie, hope you're well. Please be part of this. Mental health is something that affects the people on the Cape Flats. It's something that affects our people because mental problems wat ons verteer van nie and it complicates sometimes our relationships with our family members. Hi, good evening, Morgan. So in the studio, I've got Kia and Taswil, and they will take the conversation further. Good evening, Kia. Welcome to Cape Flats Stories.
Good evening, Stan. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. Yes, man. I see we've lost Paul now. I'm not Paul, Taswil. So you will be joining us now, but just tell us more about yourself, while we're waiting for him. Who is Kia and what is it that she does? And I know you're living in Cape Town now. Just a bit of a background about yourself.
Okay, thanks. So I'm a social worker by trade, and I currently work for the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. I've been there for 2.5 years. So our focus is mental health and having a huge reach on people who don't really have access to mental health resources. What SADAG basically does in a nutshell is it offers free telephonic counseling for anyone and everyone, no matter who you are nationwide. So at any point in time, you could reach out to us via our website, you could contact a counselor, you could reach out to us on any of our 26 helplines. We have SMS lines, we've got WhatsApp chat lines, and basically the goal is just to, reach out to people in the community who feel like they can't get the type of mental health assistance they need because sometimes mental health care is really expensive or it's really far away from where some people are situated. So SADAG tries to network you with the closest help, being the center. So yeah, SADAG and me in a nutshell.
Awesome. And there's one thing I don't know. I think each area are different. You get different cases in different areas, and I think mental health is something that people don't speak about. It's something that I know men are very much afraid to speak about it. It's like like in where I grew up on the Cape Flats. It's like you can't speak about your mental health because you're going to be like classified as a sissy. How do you guys reach out to men in specific? How do men communicate with you guys? Because I know for the female, it's easy to speak about mental health, and many of our females do reach out, but with men, how do we reach out to our men out there?
I think this is a brilliant question, and I definitely think something it's not spoken about enough at all. Male mental health is put on the back burner, and I think that's for one reason and one reason only. It's because, sorry, I see Paul asking a really good question, and I think it's very important to clarify before we move forward.
That's
So
right.
thank
That's
you,
right.
Paul. All right. So Paul's asking, what is mental health? Examples, please. So I think the easiest way to understand mental health is, some of you may wake up every morning really early and go for a run or go to the gym or exercise muscles in your body to either build mass, lose weight, stay fit, tone, whatever it is you want to say. But mental health is more about the brain. Your brain is also a muscle. So you have to nourish it and care for it and look after it the same way you would your body. So, the same way you have to eat to be well and exercise and sleep well, you have to take care of what thoughts go on in your mind. So, I think mental health is a state of being, and mental health is only achievable through mental wellness. And what is mental wellness? Mental wellness is what you do to take care of your mental health. So, mental health can range from anything, being your thought process, your behaviors, your mood. Many different things affect your mental health. So, Paul, I hope that clarified your question. Stan, male mental health. That's what we
Mm-mm.
were discussing. Yes.
That's right.
Okay, so I think that happens because of one thing and one thing only, stigma. Is you've been raised as a boy to believe that you are strong. You shouldn't cry. Any form of emotion is weakness. And as a girl, you've been raised to believe that you can cry and speaking about your feelings is normal because girls are sensitive and boys are not. So I think keeping that in mind, the way you were raised shapes your mindset. And moving forward into talking about male mental health, I think men don't speak about how they're feeling for many reasons. For how the person next to you will react, how people will perceive you. And I think a lot of men view talking about their feelings as a sign of weakness. And it's actually not. Oh, here comes Taswell.
Hey, finally. Sorry, I have some had some technical difficulties, and that's been happening most of my day so far.
Awesome. We just touched as well on what is mental health and men that don't speak about mental health. Just to
Hmm.
start the conversation, but I'm going to give over to you because I know you've prepared yourself and you have all the questions, and maybe you can just take this further for us.
Yeah. So, hi, speakers. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody's listening. I'm Taswiil, and I just wanted to. I had this burning desire to start something that I have been suffering so that I can be basically relating to many others out there. And growing up with mental health and also illnesses that I have, by trade, I'm have bipolar 2. For those who don't know what bipolar 2 is, it's a mental um, disorder with the brave wavelengths, and that makes you have various mood swings and to have very high highs and very low lows. And if I talk about highs and lows, I'm talking about highs as in manic and lows as in depression. I'm not going to dig much into it, but there's also bipolar 1, and there's also mixed bipolar. And so what we basically suffer from is various, or bipolar 2 is various mood disorders. So I have discovered at a very young age in my 20s that something was not right with me. And then uh, yeah, for me it was very difficult in the society where I lived in, and growing up where people did not understand, and I did not understand, my parents did not understand what is bipolar. And for us it was just, just sleep it off, or just yeah, just do whatever you need to do just to get to the better of it. Yeah. And I had to suffer since the age of, I think it's my memory, 22, in my 23s, up to the age of 38, 37, where I actually really needed to find help, and when I went for my first evaluation, it was by a GP, and the GP mentioned, you definitely have bipolar. And this was 3 years ago. So for all this time, I have been suffering inside and not knowing about mental health, How do I explain my parents? How do I explain my friends, my work colleagues, my just explain anybody, because in the society, in the colored community, um, we were not really raised to know what mental health is and what mental struggles are like. And when I eventually went to my psychiatrist, and he diagnosed me not just with bipolar, but he diagnosed me with ADHD and PTSD. So, for due to the lifelong struggles or awful lifelong struggles that I incurred, that it basically boiled down to PTSD. I mean, I have had many troubles with law enforcement or the police. I had many struggles with my family. I had many struggles. And I just lived a life of many struggles and with no help. And it was hard for me. It was hard for me because I didn't know what to do. Um, it was hard for me because I didn't have help or the correct help. It was hard for me because things were expensive. Going to a psychiatrist, going to a psychologist were expensive for us. Um, Although at a very younger age, I had medical aid, and but when I ran into my 20s where things really got out of control, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't manage it, and for many years I was just trying my best not to not to get out of control, and due to that, it caused months and months, every day, every night, almost the thought of suicidal, wanting to take my life, wanting not to live anymore. Um, the fact that these still happen still today, and but I have preventative measures in place where most people that are not known to um, mental awareness, and not to mention the trauma it caused on my kids growing up, that repetitiveness. My wife, it was traumatic for everybody. So I thought to myself, I want to come out and I want to say, hey, it's okay not to be okay. When you have these rushing thoughts, when you have, when you cannot concentrate, when you cannot hold your anger, there is help. And my parents were not made aware at that point of time in their lives, thing called mental awareness. And I just want to I just want to destigmatize the fact that mental awareness doesn't ask for color, age, race. It doesn't ask your what your bank account is. It comes. I know of many wealthy and popular celebrities that are suffering still today with mental health. So they coming out, and as the world is revolving, so should we should come out and we should say, hey, we need help. I had to find out by the fact that I had to look at my brothers, and I said, how are they living this life and how I am living my life. And yes, I was very successful in my life, but it what deprived me was my mental health. I was successful, but I was still looking at how many two, three, four scarves I can make to hang myself down the balcony. I was still successful and waiting to think, when is the next train coming in? I was still success. It's success doesn't measure your mental health capacity or your capabilities. So I'm just at the point whereby I want to share my story, and I'm hoping that somehow, somewhere, someone can realize and say, "Hey, can I speak to somebody? Can I reach out? Can I? How can I reach out?" I mean, even for myself, I have even been as far as being in prison, and the Almighty, I was there. So yeah.
Mm-mm. There's well, I'm just going to give over to Kia quickly, and then I'll come back to you. I can see, you know what, this is a topic that our people don't want to talk about. It was real for you. You have experienced it. Many of the people, what we do is, and me also. I spoke about this at the age of 13 years old. I tried to commit suicide for many reasons, and there was no help. Like one of the things that you spoke about, that you mentioned here, we don't have the necessary help, or we didn't have the necessary help. The help is available now, and I think that's where Kia comes in. Our people need to start talking about, men especially in our communities need to start speaking about mental health issues. Sean says here, um, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 20, a little bipolar, 5 years ago. And how many of our young men, how many of us are walking around? This makes it complicated. It's not because you're a difficult person. It's just that you have, you just need some professional help. A lot of us are looking like my father. Many years later, I believe he's also bipolar, and he grew up like that because men are not supposed to cry. We are strong, and for that reasons, we don't talk about these type of illnesses. But this is where Kia comes in, and tell us, how do we reach out? Who do we speak to? Because we need to open up this door, or this what this on the other side, because our people need to start speaking about what is bothering them.
100%. And, I think Taswell's story and just some of the comments that I'm seeing on the side with people who have experienced receiving a dual diagnosis after many years of struggling without knowing where to go, without knowing who to turn to, and, really battling their mental health on their own. And sometimes when you're struggling that much, it feels like a really, really lonely journey. And I think the first and foremost thing that anyone can do when it comes to, tackling your mental health in a healthy or a positive way is talking about it, starting that conversation, checking in with people who look like everything's going well and who smile at you every day. I think a huge thing about mental health that people overlook is how your mood changes and how your behavior changes, your routine, your sleep, all of these things that trigger you or push you to feel like your mental health is not in a good place. So I think doing exactly what Tazwell did, taking that step to go to someone and say, I'm experiencing these things. I feel this way. These things have happened to me in my life. And even if you're not sure what to call it, just opening that conversation with a professional. I think, SADAG was founded on the principle that our founder, Zane Wilson, suffered panic disorder. And for many years, she didn't know who to go to or where to turn or how to find the help that she needed for herself to receive a diagnosis. So even if it's just, somebody who's watching this podcast right now, if you felt that your mental health was in jeopardy or you felt like you weren't doing so well today, you just needed somebody to speak to, go onto the SADAG website, look at our helpline numbers. Literally SMS 31393 or phone 0800 567 567 and speak to a counselor. Just saying to somebody, I think I'm struggling, is the best step that you could take forward in taking care of your mental health. So I think if anybody's looking for a place to start, go to somebody you love, go to somebody you care about, tell them that you're battling. Be open with how you feel about your mental health, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman. There's someone in the world who you trust. Go to them, open the conversation, and seek a professional that you feel will be able to tackle your problem in the best way.
Kia, I said something yesterday to a few of my friends. Some of us as adult people are suffering from trauma that happened in our childhood. And this is my question, maybe to you and to Taswell. How do we revisit? You obviously need professional help because I believe that many of the trauma that we're going through today as adults somehow happened in the past and we haven't made peace with it. I mean, we have cases in our communities that I personally know of where young boys were raped, never got counseling, young girls the same, and things like this build up. And later on, these individuals they become out of control because nobody's assisting them, and they actually become worse. Um, how do we work on this? How do we reach out to these young people, or how do we get, as an adult, back to that place where we got hurt? I don't know. Maybe Teshwell can maybe take us up on that one.
For me, it was very difficult because yeah, I'm also suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and living with this, going through the therapy that I had to go through with my psychologist and working through this was writing letters for forgiveness. Forgiveness plays a real big part in your healing journey, and this is something that I had to come to terms, is learn to forgive the persons who made harm to me. And I think that is step number one, for the step to recovery of any post traumatic stress disorder or any form of rape or anything like this. So, but I'm sure that Kia will elaborate or could elaborate a little bit more on this. Yeah, thank you.
So I think that poses a good question, and Taswell and I were actually speaking about this a bit earlier: nature versus nurture. Like your environment, how you were grown, if you view it in that way. So, if a flower is planted in a pot and the flower dies, do you blame the flower or do you blame the environment that it grew up in? So, who's taking care of your mental health in what space you were raised? And I think going back into childhood trauma is a really complex discussion because your trauma might not be trauma for me, and my trauma might not be trauma for you. But I think anything that has put you in a state where your mental health has been affected by it is worth discussing. It's worth going back and revisiting. Um, I think the human brain is a very, very clever place. It rewires itself to remember things and forget things based on how we learn how to cope with them. So you may be going into a safe space like Tazl spoke about in therapy and unpacking all of these things that once affected you. And based on the stuff that you're unpacking, you're learning how to cope with it so you don't carry it with you anymore. A big mistake people make is they think what happened to them in childhood, or they think what happened that one time the teacher told you you were wrong in front of the whole class meant nothing in that moment, but you're 35 years old and you're still thinking about it. So something on that level, if anything that still replays in your mind, you have to go back and revisit, or what your brain does is it rots. it rots that memory to the point that it affects your mental health. And that goes back to the states of mental wellness. It's going to affect how you view things, it's going to affect your relationships, like you were speaking about in the beginning, Stan. So I think, like, if you take anything from this, if you're triggered, if that thought is on a loop, you need to go back and revisit it. It's important.
And that clears up a lot for us actually. Kia, Morgan actually says something here. I don't know how you feel about this. As well, if you live on a Cape Flats, we all suffer. We all got post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, you hear gunshots. I mean, it's not normal for somebody to hear 24/7 gunshots. It's not normal for somebody, to lay under the bed. It's like we are living in a time or in an environment where it's like a military zone. Any military officer that goes into, let's say, into Iraq or wherever, and they come back, they have to be debriefed. And I think that's the same with people as well living on the Cape Flats, and this is an everyday thing. Many people say the problem is not really for me. It's not really the organizations that is available to help. I think the big problem for me is Taswiil and Kia. How do we get our people to reach out? That is that is the switch we need to put on. Taswiil, in our community for a fact, they're gonna laugh at us. They're gonna make jokes of us, and for that reason, we are afraid to
mm,
reach out. We are afraid to talk about this. I mean,
mm,
they're gonna call you that word. You are morphe. You There's something wrong with you. It's things like that that adds more
mm,
to that
mm,
adds fuel to what's already happening.
mm,
So,
mm,
from your side as well, also,
mm.
how did this affect your relationship with your partner?
Whew, that is a very stern question, and that is a question that she could answer. But if I have to just brush on Morgan's question, and yes, we all suffer from PTSD when we live on Cape Plates. I remember walking or just at 8 a.m. or sorry 8 p.m. and I've seen a little gang fight happening, and I've seen a guy being stabbed in front of me. Yeah, I have seen two people die in front. So like Kia said, you, one effect does not necessarily affect you as much as it would affect me. And we are all wired differently. And like also what you mentioned, the teacher might say something to the class and to you, but it will resonate with you for 30 years, but to me it won't resonate. So in that effect, yeah, it's different strokes for different folks, if they have to say that, but if you have to come back to the Cape Flats, living on Cape Flats, yeah, I had, there's a social stigmatizing around people as well, and I had long dreadlocks, and I had wearing high heels shoes and bell bottoms and things like that, and I lived in Rocklands. Obviously, I was being mocked and being, but that was my social identity that I was busy finding and going through. And yeah, that also, I never allowed that society dictates who my character or who I am. And that's, I think, where you are coming from, Mr. Stan, is that um, it affects different people at different ways. I were not affected by the dictation of society, and but the PTSD still stands. That's different. When you get hurt, it resonates. It makes some form of, it does something in your brain, and that makes you, it makes you take it for a very long time. Yeah. So yeah, that's my point.
I just have a question for Kia quickly. Kia, from a parent perspective myself, I've been through a lot of trauma. I've been through a lot of stress, and I don't want my kids to go through this. I always say this is how I live. My kids should be an improvement of me. So whatever I went through in life, they shouldn't necessarily go through the things that we can avoid. how do I help my kids as a parent? Because there's many parents watching, and later on there will be a few thousand that has watched this um, podcast. How do we as parents prepare our kids? I think one of the things that helped me many years later on was emotional intelligence. I also went for things like to go see a psychologist. But I think the biggest thing that could help a student from the school already is emotional intelligence. Who do I take serious? When do I speak? Things emotional intelligence allows you to to discern what is wrong and what is right. To put it like that. So how do I, as a parent, get my kids prepared for what's really happening out there?
I think this is such a relevant question, and for every parent watching, I hate to break it to you all, but you can't protect your kids from whatever the world is going to throw at them. But what you can do is you can build resilient little people or resilient young adults to be able to do what you're saying, Uncle Stan, and develop that emotional intelligence. I think developing emotional intelligence comes from opening age appropriate conversations with your children. So, if you have young boys and they fall and they cry when they hurt themselves, don't say, oh, you're a wussy. Oh, boys don't cry. Oh, just wipe it off. Or if something happens and your kid is throwing a tantrum and you, as the parent, are like, why are you throwing a tantrum? This makes no sense. Learn to check in with your kid and ask them to show, don't say, why did you do that? Rather ask them, help me understand why you reacted that way. Help me understand what you're feeling, or what did that make you think when it happened? Because by doing those emotional reflection exercises with your children, you're actually building resilience in them. And you're teaching them to check in with themselves so that when something happens in or around them in the environment, they don't crumble under the pressure of what it's created. They're able to analyze the situation, analyze the risk, and see how that they can emotionally respond to it. And that will help them regulate themselves. So when they are in situations that are not optimally ideal or may cause stress or may cause anxiety, they're able to check in and say to themselves, how do I feel about this? What do I truly want to do about it? And they become, instead of becoming reactive, they become active about it. So they'll do something about it instead of reacting to it. So I think building resilience and opening the conversation, checking in with them. You may think your 10-year-old is focusing on just their homework. You don't know what they watch. You don't know what their friends are exposing them to. You don't know what they're learning outside of your home setting, and you can't control that either. But what you can do is check in with them. So when you find out they're exposed to things you don't want them to know about, how are you managing that? How are they responding to it? How are you reacting about it? And what are you doing about it?
Thank you so much, Kia. I just want to ask one question quickly, to maybe to yourself, and then I'm going to give over to Taswiil. What is the symptoms of somebody that has bipolar? Because we have touched on a lot of things. So I don't know. I think somebody that, also another thing that we do is we listen to everybody. So somebody knows, I've read on Google, this is the symptoms of bipolar. So they're not a professional, but now they've told me somebody with bipolar has like two different personalities. So now automatically, I think it's somebody with different personalities. What is the what is the things that we can look out for? Because we have a lot of family members, and I think that is also maybe where we need to take the step and tell our family members, sit down with them, look here, you need to go for professional help, and there's nothing wrong with it. Because if we can identify, the what is the symptoms of schizophrenia, as well as bipolar, how do we identify and then take it from there?
Brilliant. And I love that you said that anybody who picks up Google will diagnose themselves with anything that Google tells you are the first three
That's right.
symptoms, because
Mhm.
that's the truth. So remember, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't make diagnoses, but
Mhm.
in my profession and all the people that I work with, I think if you are concerned at any change in mood or behavior and it's really erratic, people around you are starting to notice and you're noticing within yourself, definitely consult a professional.
Mhm.
Phone the SADAG helpline, speak to a counselor, let us help navigate you to the closest person who can make a diagnosis, like a GP, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a registered counselor, anyone who is in a therapeutic space that you can speak to. I think just for the people watching, and because we have Tazwa on the show, bipolar is very different because there's actually four types of bipolar. It's bipolar 1, bipolar 2, cyclothymic, and rapid cyclic bipolar. So those four all come with a different set of symptoms. But Taswiil initially in the beginning of the show explained it really well. It's basically categorized by really high highs, which is what you call a manic episode, and really low lows, which are severe depressive episodes. And those low last for prolonged period of times or different durations of time, depending on what type of bipolar you have. So if you're finding every 3 to 6 months or once a year, you're having this huge spike in happy mood and then followed by a huge dip in depressive mood, you should probably go and consult a healthcare professional. So please don't WebMD yourself. Please go and speak to somebody if you suspect you have a mood disorder or personality disorder. Um, Even something as simple as depression. And I know I'm going a bit off topic, but I also want to point out that there's normal depression and there's depression that you need to be concerned about where you need to see somebody. So, for example, if you've just lost somebody you love, if somebody you love has passed away, you're going to go through depression as a stage of grief. That is normal depression. If that depression lasts way longer than, I mean, there's no time cap on grief. But at some point, that depression or the symptoms hinder your ability to behave normally in the real world anymore. That's when it's cause for concern. But if you're going through something anxious, something depressive, you're going through huge life changes, your reactions are normal. Humans are supposed to experience anxiety because that's how we survived as cave people. We knew when we were going to be eaten or when it was safe to lie down and make fire. So weigh the pros and cons. But if at any point I think anyone who's viewing this is concerned about themselves or their mental health, please go see a healthcare professional. Rather speak about it and it be nothing than leave it and it be something too late.
Absolutely. Kia has she nailed it 100%. And yeah, it's been difficult, but for do not rely on what the website or what Google says or anything says. Um, for me to differentiate at the beginning was clearly was why why is my brothers like this, and why am I like this? I'm slightly little different. I think different, I act different, I do things different. Why am I having rushing thoughts? Why am I having no sleep at nights for 3, 4, 5 nights in a row? There's the why question that that, that you should ask yourself, and that answer can only be found at either a GP or professional psychologist, psychiatrist, or somebody in that trade, and not on Google, because you will misdiagnose yourself. You will go into a lab of depression just because of that. So I found myself purely first the first question was by a psychologist, which I was very close friends with, and say, hey, did you ever think of being bipolar because I kind of see bipolar tendency, and I'm good friends with you, and I'm good friends to say that. And I brushed it off for a year and a half until it came to a point whereby I said, what she said resonated. What she said made a difference, and that's where I took a bold step. And it's not just a bold step for myself, but it was a bold step for my family as well. Because if you're bipolar, you don't just suffer; everybody around you suffers, and that's the most unselfish thing that you can do is go for help, whether you have bipolar. And yeah, I have bipolar ADHD as well, but bipolar being the main diagnosis, if I would say, and having tendency of ADHD. And so yeah, go for help, seek for help, phone SADC, and find out if there is something that you need to look deeper into. So yeah, that's from me.
I just want to go into our next question. While you were talking now, Taswiil, the question came to mind. Many children drop out of school in our communities because the teacher don't understand them. And I think many teachers are not trained to read children's behavior. And I think many of our kids might have this, type of behavior, bipolar, and we don't know about it. I think this is also something we schools maybe need to act on behalf of parents. If we pick this up in our schools, I think this is where we need to bring organizations in that can, sort of help our kids, because the earlier we identify this problem, the better. Because now what happens is a child will feel nobody cares about him. We have on the Cape Flats, we have children dropping out of school at the age of 13, 12 years old because they don't want to go to school. The teacher don't get along with him and things like that. But it could also be maybe the child is naughty, and maybe in most cases the child has other issues. And I think normally we see these videos on Facebook where a child don't listen to the teacher, where the child just switch off. And I think for this reason, we need this type of facility or this type of resources in our schools where we can identify, because we may be sitting with a problem,
Mm.
a pandemic in our schools, because of we don't know that we're suffering from mental issues. There's a lot of things. I mean, there's well, you see somebody laying dead along the road. You see your father beating your mother. And this is the reality. This is things that you see. You see the neighbor stabbing his wife. It's all things that built up. And like whenever I hear a gunshot, I get so afraid. Our kids are looking at gangsters shooting guns. Our kids are looking at this stuff. It is
Yeah.
normal. So
Yes.
those
Yes.
things, it really builds up. And I think this is where we need to, look at it. It's a bigger picture. How do we get the schools to buy into this? I know that while we're talking, I know you guys are having some workshops in the next couple of weeks. Maybe talk about that. Maybe schools can then get involved and reach out to you guys, and let's see how we can take this organization into the schools.
Yeah, I think Kia would be the best for saying or explaining how we are taking this into the schools. This is our the number one priorities that we also have on our list, as in engaging with the schools and in creating an environment for the kids to listen and see and make them feel comfort. But again, sorry, Mr. Stan, that's slightly out of my ball, and I think I would give it over to Kia in this prism. Yeah.
Thanks, Tazal. No problem. So SEDEC does do quite a few school events. So what we try to do is we split it up between the teachers, the parents, and the children. So we do psychoeducation for the teachers and the parents on separate days, and we basically teach them, mental health versus mental illness. What are the warning signs in your children? If you pick them up, what you can do, where you can seek help, where you can go. And then for the kids, we do a lot of suicide prevention talks. But in those suicide prevention talks, we unpack mental health and we talk about, physical fitness, mental fitness, what you eat, how you're supposed to eat. If you're feeling overwhelmed, where can you go? We actually even teach kids how to set up suicide safety plans. And we teach kids, if you're worried about a friend, if you're too scared to go to an adult, that's okay. Here's SADAG's WhatsApp number, because teenagers these days love their phones. So I find even on our WhatsApp platform, it's quite busy with a lot of teens worried about a friend, worried about a parent, worried about a loved one. And the first thing I always say to them is, I'm so proud of you. I'm really impressed that you came forward because you picked up something was wrong. And trust your gut. If you feel like something's wrong, it probably is. So I think going into schools and opening, like I keep saying, that conversation, and that's why I love platforms like yours where you're opening the conversation because it isn't spoken about enough. And all your viewers in the comments box are reiterating, if you live on the Cape Flats, you have PTSD. Probably, but you probably have more trauma than you do PTSD. You're just living in that state of constant anxiety that you haven't realized how desensitized you are to what you're being exposed to. And I think what's going on with kids these days is there's so much overexposure that by the time they hit 12, 13, 14, to them living a life of violence is more normal than getting a matric. And that's scary. And I think as parents, as uncles, aunts, siblings, whatever, whoever is watching this is, opening that conversation within your circle, within your family, is where you begin. And especially if you're a parent, don't think your kids are too young to understand how they're feeling. They're not. Your kids are a lot more in tune with how they feel than we are as adults. So check in with each other, check in with your kids, check in with yourself, and just reach out.
I just want to leave a question, as Taswiil asked earlier on. Um, well, crime is out of control not only in Cape Town but across South Africa. Aside from the gang violence, there's other crimes as well. I think it does not only affect the Cape Flats but other areas of Cape Town as well and South Africa. But this is what I want to ask you guys: how does crime affect our young people in this age and day? I mean, when I grew up, I could go play outside. I could, watch, play cricket. I could be myself. I wasn't in like a little prison called home because we were safe. And I feel over the last couple of years, we've taken away that liberty, that freedom of our young people, many of our young people. And I think that should affect our young people because all we hear every day um, in our homes is the crime, is what's happening, the corruption and things like that. A child hears the same thing. Everything today is negative. There's no positive. How do we also change our? I think we should change our environment. I think it's necessary for us to also sort of detox as families, to have these conversations and to change the channel. I mean, there's many times on this platform where I can see if I post something about crime, nobody likes it, nobody says it, nobody views it. But if I make a joke, everybody's laughing because I think people actually sort of disconnects themselves from the reality just to escape the reality. Um, how do you guys feel about this?
I think at this point in time, I'm gonna I'm gonna have to give it over to Kia as well. But from my side, it's like, one cannot really risk. It's an audience. We engage into an audience. Sorry, let me just do this. And with the audience, we some I have to get my battery sorted out as well. And with an audience, we have to somehow. Oops, there we go. We have to look at what makes the audience stick and what makes the audience, um and that's where you come in, Stan. um
Teswell, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get to my point. um can you hear me now? Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, sorry. Technologies again, on my side of wanting to deter. So yeah, so our audience are basically sometimes tuned to, like you say, trying to escape from reality. But at night, when they close their eyes, it they think of it. So they might not comment on Facebook, but at nights, I believe they think of it. And they also try to think of a solution. And they also trying to think of how they can be there for the kids better. And that is just my perception on my experience, and I get it as well. And I go when I close my eyes when I lay next to my wife, and then I have these thoughts as well. So I'm not sure if this is normal or not. But once again, I leave it to Kia to maybe just elaborate.
So I'm going to try and tackle both your comments in one. And I think, there's two sides of this coin. People want to dissociate from what is ugly and what is bad and what makes them feel terrible, because life in itself is bad and ugly and terrible if you live in your head long enough. So I think, people seeing crime videos and people seeing all of these things that trigger them, that make you feel unsafe and make you feel overwhelmed. They may not necessarily react to it on social media, but Taswill's right. Anything that truly affects you, whether you've seen it, whether you've heard it, whether you've lived through it, whether it's somebody you care about that's gone through it, you're going to replay it at some point, because as human beings, we need to dissect something and understand it in order for us to cognitively or like process it in our mind. Because if we don't understand it, the mind can't process it, and then the mind starts to loop. So seeing all these violent videos, and I think just crime everywhere in South Africa. I mean, I'm originally from Joburg, and earlier, Stan, you said when you hear a gunshot, you get scared. For me, that's normal. I don't even hear them anymore. And I don't think that's normal. Do
Mm-mm.
you know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
So, where I come from, that's just a norm. It's just somebody else is hurt and there's nothing we can do. So let's just move on with it. But bet your bottom dollar you see a hijacking video and you feel affected. And you feel the effects of crime and you worry about the safety of yourself and your children. Or, even as a woman, we don't walk to school where I come from. We don't go places alone because of the high crime rate. So I think even though you may not be speaking about it or acknowledging it out loud, you're playing it back in your mind. And it is something as South Africans, I think, is on the forefront of what you think of a lot. Safety is a huge part of, you know, your needs as a human being. And if you don't feel safe, what is there? So I don't know if that tackled your question, Stan, but I think, Taswell, you also touched on it, going to bed at night and replaying it, and just that element of safety and crime in South Africa, it's real. So I think people need to do what they need to do to feel safe.
And I think you are so right. We need to do what we need to do to keep ourselves safe. I think our our mental health and our well-being is at this moment depends on us. And I think we need, just like we look after our body to go to the gym and eat right and all those things, we need to also invest in the well-being of our mental state. Um, we have come almost to the end of the program. And I know before I end off, I wanted to give it over to you guys. I know you guys are busy with some workshops that's going to happen in Cape Town, some programs and so on. What can people expect? I know Teswell has something happening. Kia, you mentioned you guys also have a workshop coming down very soon. Just give us more on where these workshops will be, and also how people can get in contact with you. I've draft your name in here, but maybe just the number of your organization or contact number.
So yes, what yeah, what I have thought and what I have put together, and what with the help of SADC, and I decided, or we both decided
Mm,
that through some extensive um, training and developing and making sure that I am on par, is that we have developed, or we have come to a conclusion that we are opening up on the
mm,
1st of October we are opening up a support group, and the support group will be for people that are suffering of depression, people that are suffering of anxiety, people that are suffering of bipolar, people are suffering of ADHD, and this will also be with overall of everything I have mentioned, people that are living with these people that are suffering of anxiety, depression, bipolar, and ADHD. Because sometimes it's a team effort. It's a team effort whereby the family goes with the person, or the family goes with whoever that is suffering with the family member that are affected with this mental illness. Yeah. So we have our first workshop and opening launch on the 1st of October at the AFM Strandfontein. That's on the corner of Dennegeer and Play Street. That we will launch our first group session. And this is where we will just introduce ourselves, make ourselves known, and hopefully we can build from there. And
Mm-hmm.
not hopefully, we will build from there. And making the awareness of mental health, breaking the stigma, destigmatizing the mental health, and
Mm-hmm.
that is our plan. For that's our short term plan, and we
Mm-hmm.
also have a long term plan, which I'm hoping that we could share on our next platform and an opportunity we have with you, Mr. Stan. And
Definitely.
yeah, that's for Strandfontein, Mitchells Plain, Rocklands
Mm-hmm.
area, East Ridge, whoever wants the whole area, Grassy Park, Pelican Park, and everything goes with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, we starting this. It will be
mm-hmm.
a magnificent. It gives you a platform. It gives
Mm-hmm.
you a platform to share
Yeah.
your experience, and also
Yeah.
to hear of other experience, and that's how we grow, and that's how we evolve, and that's how we grow stronger as humans. Yeah. And that is just my desire of my heart, my brother.
Yeah, yeah. And tell me quickly, Sean asked you what time. So it's going to be in at the church at the AFM church in Strandfontein, 1st of October. What time?
From 9 a.m.
From 9 a.m. I'm just going to put in
Yeah.
here from 9 a.m. So Sean, if you want to join, you are welcome to do so. 9 a.m. Strandfontein is quite a nice area, so you don't have to worry. It's safe, and I think also the venue is nice and suitable for the
Mm.
event. Um, Tesla, any contact number that people can maybe contact you on? Because I know some people will come afterwards and they're going to ask, how do
they
we get
can
in
they,
contact with you?
they can directly WhatsApp me. I
Mm-hmm.
prefer communicating via WhatsApp, as in calls, and I can always cross reference and things like
Yeah,
this. So on the number is 072
yeah,
7007
7007
254.
254.
That is
That's your
my
number.
direct WhatsApp. And if anybody need any information in regards to that,
Mm-hmm.
also they can also visit the SADC website, which is www.sadac.org.za. And there it's an overwhelming of information over there. I'm not sure if Kia wants to elaborate on this.
Yeah.
I'll give it over to Kia. Thank you, Kia.
No, thank you, Sadak. Thank you, Taswell. You're now part of Sadak. I'm addressing you as Sadak. Taswell is one of our great support group leaders, and like he said, our website has a plethora of information. There are so many resources on there. There's self-diagnosing assessments. There's articles. There's blogs. There's videos. There's information handouts. There's how to check if you're experiencing anxiety, depression. So go play around on the website. All the upcoming events that we do have, we do post on there. But I also just want to reiterate for anyone who needs to speak to a counselor, our lines operate 24 hours a day. So if you need to speak to somebody, you dial 0800 567 567, which is our suicide crisis line. There's always someone on the other side of that phone, or you can SMS 31393 and a counselor will phone you back. Our lines are toll free, so it doesn't take your airtime. And it's just a platform so you know that there's always somebody there for you. So check out our website. You're more than welcome to phone a counselor. You're more than welcome to send us an SMS. And yeah, just keep being brave like Taswiil is. And Stan, thank you for opening this platform for us to speak about mental health, a topic we could go on about for hours and hours. I think if you ever have more of these, Taswiil and I are happy to talk your ear off anytime.
Awesome stuff. I think we will have definitely have more of it. We should have more of it. It's a topic that's not very popular, but it's a topic that is needed. It's a topic that is life changing, and I think we need to force this topic into our communities, and that is what we're going to do. Please do. Let's do this again as well, Kia. Maybe next month or end of the month, I will get more people in to come and talk to you guys to ask questions because we can't start the conversation now and end it. So we have to continue with this, and in this way, I promise you, we will reach out to many people. So thank you so much, Kia. Thank you so much, Taswiil. I think the idea of this conversation was to inform people and to let
Mm.
people know there is help and people can get help through SEDEC. There's the website, www.sedec.org.za. And you guys can contact them. The WhatsApp numbers is on there as well. For the gentleman that wants to that wants to chat with Taswell on the first of next month, the Saturday, he will be at the AFM Church in Strandfontein, and that's his contact number, his WhatsApp number. Let's make this real. Let's tell our young men it's okay to not to be okay. It's okay for boys to cry. We have become this men that we are so strong, but yet we are so hurt inside, and we need to fix the hurt. We need to work on ourselves because you know with mental health it also takes a lot of your life away from you because you are in depression and you don't enjoy life, and it's time for us to enjoy life and to stand up. Anything else you guys want to add and maybe just want to say, or are you guys happy?
I'm good, my side. I'm very, very good, my side. Thank you. I
Excellent.
don't know if Kia wants to say something.
I just want to reiterate what you said, Stan. It's okay not to be okay. And,
Yeah.
these things don't last forever. There is always help. And sometimes when you hit a dead end and you feel hopeless, there's always a light at the end of the
That's
tunnel.
right.
Sometimes you just have to remember to switch it on.
Mm.
So, to everyone watching, thank you. And thank you again, Stan. And thank you, Taswell.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Kia. Thank you, Stan. I really, really appreciate the platform.
Mm-mm.
And I trust there will be a change of mind. There will be a change of
Mm.
heart.
Yeah.
There will be the supernaturally something will happen
Yeah. Yeah.
based on this platform and this viewing that we have.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I'll tell the guys in the neighborhood because I am from Strandfontein, and we'll pop
We
in there.
both are from Strandfontein.
And
we,
that
we,
it's
we,
a
we,
part of
we
the
half neighbors. We
we
half
actually
neighbors and we haven't seen each other.
yes,
We haven't met each other.
but definitely we will meet each other next week. Thank you so much, Kia. Tess will liaise with you, and we
Okay.
will continue this conversation, and we will get more people on, and we will grow it. It should grow by the end of this year. People will know about this program. Thank you so much, ladies and
Amen.
gentlemen,
Amen.
and
Thank you.
stay blessed. Thanks,
All
eh?
right. Keep well.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye bye,
Cheers.
everybody. Bye bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Kia and Taswell joining me from SEDEC. Taswell, as he said, bipolar has been something that he didn't know he had, and then he was, diagnosed. And for us as colored men, we are very much afraid to talk about these things, and we're very much afraid to go and ask for help. But I think we should reach out, and we should, SEDEC is there. You guys can go on the website. There's details on there, information how to get in contact with him. They are professional. I have gone and done my homework, so you guys can contact them. And then I will get Kia and Taswiil on here again. If you guys want to join, please do join us. It's a topic we need to talk about. It's like, when you grow up, your parents don't talk about sex. I come out of a house where that is something very secret. It doesn't happen, and for that reason, we didn't talk about it, but it made a lot of trouble. And later on, you go and do your own research, as I mentioned earlier on. um, we go to Google, we go to the wrong people, we go for the wrong advice at other people, or people that don't know what they're talking about. And for that reason, we have Tesla on here, and we have Kia on, and we will have them on again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Enjoy what is rest of this Tuesday, and enjoy load shedding, and make the best of your day.